In this video, I want to answer the question, how is it that we can have such a strong feeling for a game we've never played? The question seems simple. Why do I feel nostalgic for a game I did not experience? As of the making of this video, the most played game on my Steam account is Counter-Strike Global Offensive, clocking in at around 615 hours played, with Team Fortress 2 a close second. Further down the list, games like Garry's Mod, Portal, Day of Defeat, Source, Left 4 Dead 2 all have earned places as cherished titles with significant hours logged on each of them. I have met friends through these games, and I have felt welcome in the communities these games have created. Besides soaking up tremendous amounts of my leisure time, all of these games have one thing in common: the Source engine. For those unaware, a video game engine works almost like a car's engine. It powers the game and makes it tick in the special way that a specific game does. And Valve's Source engine is a favorite of mine and many others. I've been playing these games since I originally made my Steam account 7 years ago. However, the one with the biggest cult following, Half-Life, and its sequel, Half-Life 2, I've surprisingly never played. By virtue of all the praise and my undeniable love for Source games, I've come away with the idea that Half-Life ranks among some of the best games ever created, and yet I've never played them. I have a few theories as to why this might be, starting with the similarities between most Source games. They all have a first-person perspective, and many of them are shooters. Exceptions do exist, like Dota 2's top-down perspective, or Portal's focus on puzzles instead of combat. But looking at screenshots from Counter-Strike, Half-Life, and Left 4 Dead 2, they clearly look similar. Mechanics and controls are also the same in most of them, and seeing how they run on Source, many of the bugs, glitches, and exploits are the same. Techniques like bunny hopping and boosting your speed from explosive damage are present in almost all Source-made games in some way. The reason I feel like I have played Half-Life is because I have played Half-Life, just with a different coat of paint. Valve has a very distinct style, recognizable by almost anyone who has put a decent chunk of time into a Source game. And perhaps that alone is the draw. This combination of gameplay, visuals, and audio all come together to create something we can call play experience. Valve developers are masters at cultivating a great play experience. However, when just one of these are off in any way, a game can just come crumbling down. The perfect example of a Source game with terrible play experience is a game called Hunt Down the Freeman, a fan-made Source game meant to continue the Half-Life storyline. This game is terrible in every conceivable way, and even if it were a free download, I wouldn't subject my computer to its horrors. It crashes constantly, is full of great game-breaking bugs and glitches, the story and voice acting are subpar, the game introduces new mechanics to the normal Half-Life formula, and like ledge grabbing, and being able to aim down sights but never explains them to you, and a lot worse stuff. If you want to see a full-fledged review of Hunt Down the Freeman, I'll link one in the description of this video. Just know if you do, you're in for quite the ride. But enough about bad games. Let's talk about Half-Life. Half-Life 2's opening is pretty slow, but it works wonders for building the world Gordon Freeman inhabits. G-Man's opening monologue is off-putting, but it is nevertheless an iconic part of Half-Life.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish to imply you have been sleeping on the job. No one is more deserving of a rest, and all the effort in the world would have gone to waste until... well, let's just say your hour has come again. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. So wake up, Mr. Freeman. wake up and smell the ashes.
Combat doesn't start until at least 20 to 30 minutes into playing the game, so you're given ample opportunity to sightsee in City 17. The main attraction is the massive citadel in the center of the city. Note that you go there in the final level of the game, so it's cool to see it this early on. Later, you're chased through an apartment complex by civil protection, and hearing their radio chatter behind you has always given me a sense of urgency. The gameplay is simple, but tight and refined as all heck. Enemies in the early sections can usually be dispatched easily, with many civil protection officers opting to use explosive barrels for cover. However, soon as they start using the barrels against you, the ultimate betrayal. The cool thing is all the combat sections usually have a way you can speed them up, which encourages you going fast and taking risks in combat, which is incredibly fun. It also mixes the environment into the gameplay, which strengthens the play experience. The weapons you get in the game are incredibly varied, ranging from pistols, shotguns, submachine guns, crossbows, and many more, the coolest of which is the gravity gun. The gravity gun is able to pick up most objects in the game and launch them at a high speed, meaning that the beautifully detailed environment becomes deadly. Chapter 6, called We Don't Go to Ravenholm, uses this mechanic perfectly, giving you ample opportunity to use the environment to your advantage. This doesn't mean there aren't pauses in the action. The game has a few physics puzzles that are usually pretty easy but serve as a moment of reprieve. These moments are usually where other games would take you out of the game to show you a cutscene, but Half-Life is different, as there are very few times where you lose control of Gordon. This helps the game's power to immerse the player. You are always seeing things from Gordon's perspective, so you feel like you're Gordon. This is not to say there aren't negatives. Sometimes it can feel like the in-game set pieces can drag on for a bit too long, and enemy variety can get a little repetitive. There is a good variation when it comes to the zombies and aliens you find, but if your enemy has a gun, it can feel like you're fighting the same thing over and over again. When I look back on my adventures through Source games, I see the impact it's had on my gaming habits, and it seems very obvious how I could be nostalgic for a game I've never played. To this day, I still play all the Source games I have mentioned, and most likely will for a long time after. The style of these games is recognizable by anyone who has played them before, and massive communities of gamers have gathered to sing the praises of these games. Whether it be the environments they play in, the gameplay, or the characters they've grown to love, Source fans have come together to create more than what they've been given, inspired by the games they love to play.